Stats Guerrera, Stats on Fire. Look at this. Gold Standard Podcast Network. They do a great job. They do a phenomenal job, and Rob has been at the forefront of it. Starting this weekend. And he's on Zoom right now with his Niners hoodie. He's got a fresh haircut. Look at him. He's all happy. He's fired up. And he should be happy because starting this weekend, Rob will bring his podcast, the Gold Standard Network, to 95.7 The Game at 8 a.m. on Sundays for the rest of the season.
Oh, hell yeah.
Rob, that's on fire.
Sick.
We'll be spitting fire on the Bay Area sports leader, 95.7 The Game. Rob, tell us about the show and what the audience can expect. I hope they can expect what you bring on the morning roast because that won't be good enough.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be joining the 95.7 The Game family. We are going to have just energy, passion, the most compelling pregame coverage you could possibly imagine. How could you not be fired up about this team right now?
I'm fired up. And I'm fired up to hear you at 8 a.m. talk about the Niners and Cardinals in a hat and T-shirt game. Think about this. But let's let's just sit back for a second here and think about what Shanahan and Lynch have done to this organization. When they stepped aboard in 2017, obviously they started 0-9. It was a wreck. They lost to 5 games by 3 points or less, 5 straight games. And then they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. And look, I don't want to get into Jimmy Garoppolo, but he was a good Niner. He did what he had to do, and we know about his pitfalls and limitations. But all Shanahan and Lynch have done here is built the bully, and they've been in big games. Now they're going to the playoffs for the 4th time in 5 years and winning the NFC West for the 3rd time since 2019. That's gonna happen at some point this season. But, boy, what a job they've done, and you've been all over it.
Absolutely. They deserve a ton of credit. And not only that, they have a quarterback now that's in the MVP conversation. And whether or not he wins it is one thing, but that doesn't matter. The Niners are still getting MVP-level quarterback play. And let's be honest, we haven't had that in this town in 29 years since Steve Young, and it's damn good to have it back.
Absolutely. And speaking of that quarterback right now, Rob, a lot of the rhetoric, from the national media, what have you, a lot of it this week when it comes to Brock Purdy, you heard it from Cam Newton, who's won an MVP. You're hearing from everyone. I know. I see your eyes roll right there. Game manager.
Oh, boy.
What does that mean to you, anyways, when you hear the term game manager in Brock Purdy?
It's a load of crap. It's ridiculous, okay? It's from people that haven't watched Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy at this point could throw a touchdown pass to himself, and people would say, so what? He got a lot of yards after catch. It doesn't matter. I have never seen quarterback performance parsed the way that Brock Purdy's has been parsed. Ben Solak of The Ringer just put out a whole video debunking, quote-unquote, Brock Purdy for MVP because he doesn't throw enough on his deep passes. He doesn't have enough air yards on his explosive play. What are we talking about?
Go ahead, Rob.
I've never seen it like this. His passes are too short. They're too long. There's too many yards after catch. None of it counts with Brock Purdy. We've just decided that he's got good players and Shanahan, and no MVP has ever had that before, by the way. And so he can't win the MVP. It's ridiculous. But you know what? It doesn't matter. The touchdowns do count. The offense is rolling, and we're going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Rob, you know what's funny is imagine them covering Joe Montana. Imagine them. It's not like they've seen Tom Brady. And I don't even care if it's dick and duck. You get the ball out of your hands, you get the ball to your playmakers. That's the name of the game. And that's why the playmakers are played to be playmakers, to make things happen after the catch, like Debo, like Ayuk, like we watched with Jerry Rice and Tio and John Taylor for so many years. So this whole game manager thing, first of all, they're all game managers. Their job is to manage a game and make sure you don't turn the ball over. There's no crime in being called a game manager, in my opinion, but the way it gets used, it's wrongly used here, Rob. Oh, he's a system quarterback. Guess what? They all run systems. They all run different systems. They all run in a West Coast offense. That's a system. Whatever it is, a spread offense, it's a system. So this whole thing about game managers and system, it's just dumb to me. Give Brock his credit. He's averaging over 9 yards per completion. I mean, what else do you want from him? He's throwing deep balls. He's throwing short. He's taking shots. I don't even get it. And I don't even care about the national narrative anymore, Rob. I really don't. We know how well Brock Purdy's playing. He's playing some of the best football we've ever seen from a 49ers quarterback.
You don't have to convince people that Brock Purdy's playing well, right? You win the Super Bowl, the trophy doesn't count less if people think your quarterback is not as good as they say. So whatever. Get on board, people, or don't. What matters is the Niners are handling their business, and it's the best quarterback play they have had since Steve Young.
Why do you think that narrative is out there about Brock Purdy? Why can't he get his because all of a sudden people are starting to respect Dak Prescott a hell of a lot more. And I've always thought, you know what, Dak Prescott's been fine. All right, he has the turnovers. Is he a top 5 quarterback? I don't know. Go debate with your mom. I don't care. But he's a better quarterback. He's been a top 10 quarterback for so many years. But the pivot to elevate Dak Prescott because we don't want to show love to Brock Purdy is one of the strangest things I've seen in years.
Because Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft, 7th-round pick. He does have really good people around him. He does have Kyle Shanahan around him. And honestly, I think part of it is, too, that the Niners got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. And so people think, well, they did it with Jimmy, and he's terrible. He just got benched with the Raiders. So Brock must be like another Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's not true.
Wouldn't you think people would wrap their arms around that? It's one of the greatest stories in North American sports history. Think about that. We wrapped our arms around Kurt Warner for bagging groceries and leading the Rams to a Super Bowl. We wrapped our arms around Tom Brady for being a 6th-round pick. He was the last pick of the NFL draft. Isn't that one of the most heartwarming stories we've seen in recent memory in the NFL?
It's like people think he hasn't earned it, which is crazy because he's the first last pick in the draft quarterback to ever even start a game in the history of the NFL, let alone win a game, let alone play as well as he has. But there is just this reluctance to embrace him because I think people don't want to admit that he shouldn't have been a 7th-round pick, that he was better than we thought, that maybe the arm strength isn't quite as bad as we thought. We don't want to admit that we were wrong.
And Rob, I think a lot of it, too, is the fact that he's made it look so easy, and it's not, and it's driving people insane. Like the opposing, like people watching this like this, it shouldn't be like this. Mr. Irrelevant, this just doesn't happen. Well, we've seen it happen with Kurt Warner. We've seen it happen with Tom Brady. So why couldn't it happen with Brock Purdy, you know?
I think that all the best stuff Brock does is stuff we can't see. It's getting to the line of scrimmage. It's deciding, first of all, am I going to can the play or am I going to run the original play that's called? All right, let me read the coverage. I know my first read's not going to be open here. We can't see all that stuff when we watch on TV. You know what we could see? We could see a quarterback drop back, dodge a pass rusher, then throw a laser 25 yards down the field. So we think that's better than what Brock does, but it's not. It's just all of Brock's best stuff is from the neck up, and we can't see that when we watch.
Rob Stats Guerrera, Stats on Fire on Twitter, of course, Gold Standard Podcast Network. And starting this weekend, Rob will bring his podcast, the Gold Standard Network, to 95.7 The Game at 8 a.m. on Sundays for the rest of the season. Rob is telling us about the show, and Rob's going to bring fire. He's going to break down everything with the 49ers. Look, this offense, defense, what's been the most impressive aspect of this football team during the season? Because I look at the offense, I'm saying, wow, for the first time under Kyle Shanahan, the offense can carry the defense a little bit here. What's been the most impressive aspect of this season for you, Rob?
For me, it's been the turnaround since the bye week with the defense. Steve Wilks told us a few weeks ago that he was built for this, and man, was he right, because they're giving up a little over 10 points a game after the bye week. Suddenly, the defense, which only had 8.5 sacks in their first 8 games, has 11.5 sacks since the bye week. The coverage looks so... Ambry Thomas has risen from the grave to help out the 49ers in a massive way. The offense has been impressive, but the way the defense has turned it around, to me, is a credit to Steve Wilks, and I don't think they get enough credit.
All right. Trap game coming up this Sunday, Rob? Is that what you're telling me? Is there a trap game coming up against the Arizona Cardinals? Anyway, that this isn't a hat and T-shirt game for the San Francisco 49ers. I know Kyler Murray. You know, they haven't seen him, by the way. I didn't know it's 2 years since they've seen Kyler Murray. It's pretty unbelievable.
The last time they saw Kyler Murray was Trey Lance's first start. Wow. How long ago does that feel like right now? I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a trap game, but because of some of the injuries on defense with Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead and maybe Dre Greenlaw, Wilks said he's going to play, but who knows, and maybe Charvarius Ward, Arizona may be able to move the ball a little better than we think. So maybe think about like the Raiders game against Jared Stidham last year. Maybe it's going to be a kind of game where the Niners have to put up 28, 35 points.
I could see that happening against an Arizona team that's pesky. Playing for Kyler Murray's playing for his future. They're trying to play. I guess they're playing for pride here. The injuries with the 49ers. What's the more concerning injury? Is it Eric Armstead or is it Javon Hargrave's hamstring? What's the most concerning injury this week for you?
To me, it's the combination of those two. Like if it was just Armstead or just Hargrave, that would be okay. You could deal with it. But when you have cluster injuries at one position like that, that's when your depth is really tested. And that means Javon Kinlaw is going to have to play more. And Javon Kinlaw has been really good this year, but I think the fact that he's been in a limited role has helped his knee remain as healthy as it has been. If he's got to play more snaps, I don't know what that's going to do to Javon Kinlaw. Now you're really taxing that defensive tackle position because Kalia Davis is going to have to pick up the slack. And I don't know how many teams go 4 defensive tackles deep. So the cluster injuries at that one spot concern me the most.
Okay. 49ers playing the best out of anyone in football right now. Is there any team in the league that can keep up with them, all things being equal, if they're all playing at their best right now?
No, not even close. At their best, the 49ers beat anybody in the plan. I don't care if it's Lamar Jackson. I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, whoever you want to pick. At their best, nobody competes with these 49ers, and it's not close to me.
Okay. Having said that, is there any team that gives you a little bit of, you know what, maybe we should keep an eye on them if we play them come playoff time in the NFC?
In the NFC, no, not really.
Not the Cowboys, no?
No, forget the Cowboys are on a tomato can world tour. Okay? They've played 2 good teams, and one of them is the Eagles, which everybody thinks stinks right now, and the 49ers kicked the tar out of them for the 3rd straight time. Spare me on the Dallas Cowboys, who think they're big and bad, and every time they play the 49ers get punched in the mouth. No, I am not sweating anybody in the NFC.
This feels like the year, because I'm not even sweating anybody in the AFC right now. Miami, we saw what happened on Monday Night Football. There's something up with them. They've lost some guys. They've lost some guys on that defense. Kansas City has no wide receivers. Kelsey looks to step slow, even though Patrick Mahomes still is Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. You give them an extra week off, they could be dangerous. But, Rob, I got a super feeling about this season, man. I'm telling you, I feel like it's going to end in Las Vegas. Feels like the drought is over because Shanahan, I think, has done his best job. And nobody's talking about him being maybe the coach of the year, how he's kept this locker room together for year in and year out. They got off to the fast start. He's calling plays. The playbook is open. He's being aggressive. This feels like the year.
They have to win it this year because they are such a good team. What they have done on both sides of the ball. And if you don't win it, you just get forgotten. You go into the dustpan of history, and you won't get mentioned as one of the greatest teams of all time, and you won't even get mentioned as one of the greatest 49ers teams of all time because you got to have a ring to get into that club. So they have to get it done this year because they are historically good.
Historically, the best offense since 94? Or is this offense better than 94?
Oh, it's
Rob, you may have 3 1,000-yard receivers. It's possible. I don't think it'll happen, but it's possible. They had one 1,000-yard receiver that year in 94. Ricky Waters had 1,500 scrimmage yards, over 1,500 scrimmage yards. Christian McCaffrey's going to have over 1,500 rushing yards, not to mention the passing yards. He's going over 2K. I can't believe I'm saying it. This offense may be a bit more dynamic than that 94 offense, which is funny because Mike Shanahan was the offensive coordinator that season.
Yeah, Shanahan was mad in the Super Bowl because Steve Young only threw 6 touchdowns. Yeah. Mike wanted 8.
That's insane.
It's close. They're in the conversation, which is a scary thing to talk about when you're talking about some of the Hall of Fame players the 49ers had, but that's the company they're in right now. Yeah. That's why, like you said, they have to finish the job.
They do. That pressure them out next year. You win it this year, then we're looking at this team next year rolling it back, saying back-to-back. But you got to win one. It does feel good, though. Right now, they're rolling. Rob Guerrera, you could hear him on Sunday here on 95.7 The Game. Really excited for you, man. Really excited. You've had a hell of a year. I know some bad things happened in your career-wise. You got let go. You bounced back in a major way. You're still one of the biggest content creators when it comes to 49er football, the Gold Standard Network. Rob Guerrera, Stats on Fire, 95.7 The Game at 8 a.m. on Sundays for the rest of the season. And I expect nothing but fire, Rob.
You know it. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Thank you for the kind words. Always appreciate you having me on. And let's go. And let's go Niners the rest of the way here because special things are coming.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Rob. Truly. I like seeing people elevate and get promoted, man. I'm not a hater at all. I know Spinoni's not a hater. We like seeing people have success in this business, man. So keep doing what you do.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thanks, Rob.
Rob Stats Guerrera. Real quick.